Hi everyone, this is Mr. Cole, and today we're starting our new chapter, Chapter 8, Percentage. So for this video, we're going to learn how to convert between percentages as well as decimal or fractions, which is a recap of primary school, as well as to express quantities as a percentage of another quantity. Now, when we see this percentage symbol, what will you think of? Alright, simply put, it means something out of 100. For example, when we look at 50% and we want to express it as a fraction, immediately you'll think of, 50 out of 100, 50 over 100. And this can be simplified into a fraction of 1 over 2 or a decimal of 0.5. Do you see the relation between a percentage as well as decimal fraction? Yes. When we are converting from percentage to decimal fraction, we divide by 100. And now, what is the opposite of dividing by 100? Yes, it's simply multiplying by 100. So that is how the relationship between the percentage, which is to divide by 100 into a decimal or fraction, and then the opposite would be to multiply by 100 to get back our percentage. Okay, now let's try out some practices. On the left, we have, for question 1 and 2, we have percentage into fraction and percentage into decimal. So based on our previous exercise or previous concept that we learned, we actually will have to divide by 100, alright, to get our fraction or decimal. So for the first one, we get 66, 2 over 3%. If we divide by 100, we will just get 2 over 3. And likewise, for 420%, after dividing by 100, we will get 4.2. For question 3 and 4, we have a fraction into a percentage. So in this case, we should be doing the opposite, which is to multiply by 100. Okay, so we get 3 over 7. If we multiply by 100, we get 300 over 7%, which in this case might be not very useful. So we can express it as a mixed number. And in this case, we should get 42, 6 over 7%. Okay, next one, 3, 2 over 9. When we convert it into our fraction, we just multiply by 100. And we should get 2900 over 9%. Okay, now we can also convert it into a mixed fraction, which will give us 322 2 over 9%. Now, is it wrong to leave it in in improper fraction? Answer is no, it is still correct. But then, in this case, mixed number is more preferred because we know in a scale of 1 to 100, where does it stand? Or in this case, it can even exceed 100 in the case of 322, 2 over 9. And last one over here, 50. Is 50 a decimal, fraction, or percentage? Okay, so 50 is actually a decimal, and so when we convert it to a percentage, we actually multiply by 100. So in this case, 50 is actually equivalent to 5,000%. Is that clear? Okay, now let's do some practice of expressing percentage of a quantity. Okay, so in this case, 40% are 120 cm. Okay, quite simple. What we get is 120 centimeter multiplied by 40%. In this case, you can express 40% as a fraction of 120 cm multiplying by 40 over 100. And we key in the calculator, we should get 48 centimeters. Is that okay? Alright, next one. Next one is a bit tricky because we have two quantities. I asked you to express 2.5 kg as a percentage of 80 grams. So we got our first quantity here, second quantity here. Always remember, the first quantity is in the numerator of the fraction when we do our conversion, and the second one is in the denominator. So first, let's express this as a fraction. So over here we have 2.5 kilogram over 80 gram. Now, you see a fair fraction to write. Most of you have realized it's not in the same units. So let's first convert them into the same units. So we multiply 2.5 kg by 1000, we should get 2,500 grams over 80 grams. Now we have a fraction. So how do we convert from fraction into percentage? Correct. In your calculator, you should multiply by 100, which will give us, alright, so 2500 divided by 80 multiplied by 100, give us 3,125%. Okay? Now, common misconception, alright? So this is misconception right here that I need to highlight to everyone. What some of you may do is you take 2500 divided by 80 multiplied by 100%. Right? If you were to type this into your calculator, what do you get? Alright? So can everyone type this in your calculator, including the percentage sign? Notice what you get is 31.25. And some of you may write the percentage afterwards. Now, do you notice the difference in the answer? This is actually 100 times more than this over here. So that's why this is a mistake. Now, what is the rule of thumb that I always tell my students? Never use the percentage symbol in the calculator. Is that clear? Now, why is this the case? Actually, the answer is not wrong. Answer here is actually what the calculator is trying to say is actually 31.25 in decimal. Notice your calculator, it doesn't have the percentage symbol in the answer at the bottom right. Hence, the calculator is actually not wrong in saying 31.25, but you still have to convert it to percent by multiplying 100. Okay, and that's where most people misunderstand. So don't ever fall into this pit hole of just blatantly using this in your calculator, but instead multiply by 100 without the percentage symbol, and then use that value right out on your paper with the percentage symbol added after it. Is that clear? Okay, maybe you try out some misconception, alright? You try to spot the misconception over here. So in this question 8, we have a group of students, 20 out of 80 students wear spectacles. So what's the percentage of students who wear spectacles? Most of you can tell me 20 over 80, that's simply just 1/4, which is 25%. But which of these workings A, B, and C is correct? Okay, try it out. Try to spot the error. Okay, let's look at one by one. Let's look at working A first. Working A say we have 20 over 80 times 100. And this will give you 25. However, this is a wrong working because 20 over 80 times 100, this will give you a decimal of 25. And 25 is equivalent to 2,500%. Alright, that's why this is a wrong working. Because we shouldn't express it as 100. Although in the calculator we type in 100, but then in your working, we do not write it times 100. Alright, instead what you can do is working B over here. So you can write it as 20 over 80 multiplied by 100% to express it as a fraction, as a percentage. And then in your calculator, you just type in 100 without the percentage symbol, and that will give you a number of 25. Right? Then in your final answer, you just put as 25%. So this is the correct way of writing, where instead of multiplying by 100, we multiply by 100%. Okay, is that clear, everyone? And look at the last working C. Simply, we just put a fraction equals to 25%. Now, is this correct? Actually, this is also correct. Okay, so if you find this step a bit confusing to you, where you're not too sure whether to multiply by 100 or 100%, it's fine. Okay, you can leave it as a fraction, and in the next step, convert it into a percentage, and then just within your calculator, you multiply by 100. So working B and working C is acceptable in exam, just that it's up to personal preference. Okay, so personally, I like working B because I can see clearly that you're multiplying by 100%. However, I understand that some students may have the misconception of typing this into your calculator. Okay, and then it will give you 0.25, all right, which is incorrect. So just take note that you can write this as your working, but then in calculator, you multiply by 100. Okay, so in your calculator, you just multiply by 100. Is that clear? Okay, so this is the end of the chapter, and then see you in the next video.